Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. Y'all know me, Nathan Schwartz. Joining me in Sacramento, Aaron Schroeder.
Hey Nate, how are you?
Doing good. Doing good. We completed our top 200. We do still have some guys left over that weren't ranked, but we wanted to expand out our player pools. So that's what we're back in the studio to do. Uh, Point guards, trying to get 51 to 75 we've done today. And we're on a bit of a time crunch. So without further ado, do you have a nomination for 51?
I do, Nate. I do. Now, you remember the Lakers point guard that averaged, 9 assists per game in the 1980 like 80, sorry, let me start that again. You remember the Lakers point guard in the early 80s that averaged all those assists?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Magic Johnson.
Norm Nixon. Yeah, Norm Nixon. That was my favorite Lakers point guard that averaged all those assists. I feel like he's the most forgotten about important player to championship teams ever. Because if I told you, yeah, like the early 80s Lakers had this point guard that even 1981, and it's a 3 game series, but leads, or he plays 3 games, 8.7 assists. That was the highest number of assists in the playoffs that year. 7.8 assists in 1980. 8.1 assists per game in 1982, and the Lakers win the championship. 20 points per game on top of that, and you're like, I thought it was Magic and Kareem, and isn't James Worthy here yet? And like, where's Michael Cooper? And no one talks about Norm Nixon.
There might be a reason for that. Norm in the game where Magic starts at center. Do you know what Norm did that game?
What does he do?
1 for 10 from the floor. 9
But they
assists.
won. But they won, Nate. That's what you're missing.
Yes. Yes, but that's why it is the Magic Johnson story. I also just want to say, like, I have there's a reason why Norm is back here and not further up. I don't quite quibble. I've got him down. I've got 3 modern guys ahead of him, but we're all right in this range. I'm perfectly comfortable with compromise. But the year before Magic, Norm is 15 points, basically 12 assists in the playoffs, and the Lakers can't. I mean, they're not going as far. It's like very clearly like you've got Kareem. You've got Kareem coming off of like 6 MVPs, and he's still the most dominant player in the league. And you're not a good enough number 2. You need to be the number 3, and that's I think a lot of what we're going to see with these guys this day.
Oh, of course. I mean, we're talking the 50 to 75th best point guard ever. We're lucky if they ever were the number 2 option. And if you can be an awesome number 3, like a Drew Holiday for the more modern aspect, we'll get to him later pretty soon, actually. Um, you're on this list.
Yeah, Drew's the guy I have right above him, but I wanted to go for the number for 51. I was thinking Ja Morant. Now, Ja is a actual number 1. Ja's a number 1 player. He has led his team to the playoffs. He has a lot of off the court issues. He will be suspended for the first 25 games of next season. But as far as just sheer talent and peak performance, no one left on this list is as high as Ja.
Absolutely. He doesn't have the longevity, doesn't have maybe the character, although there's some questionable characters later on in this list. Um,
And Ja's young.
and he's super
We still have a
young.
lot of
He's
time to
super
see.
young. Yeah, I mean, he's just a 2-time All-Star, but those 2 seasons are better than peak Norm Nixon, better than peak Drew Holiday. He's a truly unstoppable offensive force. In the past 2 seasons, he's put together 27 points a night with 7.5 assists on 48% shooting. And going downhill, I don't know if there's anyone more terrifying.
Can we lock him in at 51 then?
I thought Norm Nixon was 51 and then Ja was 52.
I'm just asking. Can we put Ja at 51? I kind of want to talk it through.
All
Come
right,
on,
fine.
you know he's got the
Yeah,
talent.
no, I'm in. Okay, yeah,
All
let's
right,
do it. Fine,
and then can I
whatever.
can I tacitly suggest Jamal Murray over Norm Nixon? It's also a young man's game, but he has been the number 2 on a championship team, putting up 20 and 10 in the NBA Finals. I think actually better than that, as well as getting the team to another conference finals in his bubble run. I think both of those are more impressive than Norm Nixon's best season.
Sure. I think at this point, I mean, Nixon went to 3 finals. In the 1982 finals, he's 18 points and 10 assists. 1980, 15 and a half, 7 assists. And the game you talked about did happen, but Jamal Murray has never put together an all-star campaign.
That's a lot due to
Never
injuries
minded.
and how deep the West has been in the point guard and the guard positions. Like,
Sure.
I mean, he'd be an all-star in the East this
Okay,
past
yeah. All
season
right,
with
that's
20
fine. All right.
assists.
I'll accept it. The
All right.
time crunch, maybe I won't fight as much. Don't push yourself,
Yes.
Nate. Don't
All
get
right.
ahead of yourself.
All right. I will not push myself any further. So we've got Ja at 51, Jamal at 52, Norm at 53, and then I assume we're both in agreement of Drew Holiday at 54, kind of sticking with the theme of a guy who has contributed to a championship team, maybe has not been the focal point, but I actually really do like. I mean, we spent last pod, or the top 200 pod, talking about Middleton and his contribution when Giannis is out. Drew also has a really high contribution and kind of, his defensive, his two-way impact is really high out there.
He stepped up with Middleton in the Atlanta series when Giannis got hurt, and they took care of that scrappy Atlanta team. And come the Phoenix series, when the buckets get hard to get, the great scorers don't shine, and he certainly didn't really, with 36% shooting, 17 points per game. But they're playing him 42 minutes per game. He's getting 6 boards and 9 assists. They need him out there. You had to have him. And of course, the clutch steal on Booker at the end. And then being just fantastic on defense all series, wearing out Devin Booker, wearing out Chris Paul.
Yeah.
And he's been in the league for so long. He's 32. It feels like he's always been about this good. About as good as he is right now. He's been that exact level since he was like 20 years old.
I was trying to figure out what his like peak was, and I think it actually excludes one of his all-star teams because it's just like that 5-year stretch. He's got his all-star appearances so far apart that trying to figure out a 5-year peak is you cannot fit them both in. I also found I was looking back at his Pelicans time in the playoffs. In 2018, Western Conference first round, he's basically 28 points, 6.5 assists, and he's defending Damian Lillard, and Lillard shoots 35% from the floor. Like, that is clamps on defense and getting close to 30 points while leading the team in assists. That's amazing.
Did you write under your name the only one who can grow a full beard?
Yeah.
That's funny. Dylan will appreciate, yeah, because me and Dylan really can't.
So I keep wondering if I should join you with the mustache. Like,
but we could never have a beard that nice.
Yeah, that's what I look like with a mustache.
I should have led with that Portland series for the Pelicans. I remember watching that, and it was Joe Holiday has that game-saving block on Dame at the end of one of those games, if I remember correctly. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like the exclamation
3.
point, like 6 exclamation points on the holy shit. Drew Holiday just outplayed Damian Lillard, legitimately series. All right.
Yeah. All right. So now's where shit gets real. Although I think we also have a couple more guys that we agree upon. Nomination for 55.
Mookie Blaylock.
I was really hoping we were gonna have a little bit more in common.
I'm flexible, but Mookie Blaylock is such a fun player. The Thief. They nicknamed him the Thief, Nate.
It's a good nickname.
Oh yeah.
Who are kind of your next 3 on the board? Because I know we're on time crunch, but I also want to make sure that we give this due process.
Mike Conley and Mike Bibby, and Carl Braun.
Okay, so we have no overlap.
Who are your guys?
I got Andy Phillips, Tricky Dick McGuire, and Freddie Lewis.
Man, the 50s guys. I'd be okay. We did talk about that. I overlooked McGuire. Give me the Andy Phillips case for a little bit, just to hear.
Yeah, so Andy Phillips comes in and he's a member of the Chicago Stags, but the man is just one of the best passers in the league. And like, if we're talking about what point guards can do, this guy has a 7-year stretch where he is first, second, or one time third in assists per game in the league. And passing is different. Passing is you have to give the guy the ball and he has to shoot it. If he dribbles, if he takes a step, whatever, it's not an assist. So the assist numbers are lower. They do not look as impressive. But to get 8.2 assists per game in 1952 is a lot. That's really impressive. I also think that he's got this brilliant speed burst, and he can drop 20 in some of these games. Which dropping 20 when the score is 80 is impressive. He was part of the Whiz Kids in Chicago. He is the wizard. He is Handy Andy.
with
It's
Max Zlowski.
Yeah, it's an early case, but he's a five-time All-Star, three-time assist champion, two-time All-NBA, and he gets a ring, but I don't really like talking about that ring because he gets it the tail end of his career, his second to last season, playing 12 minutes a night.
It is impressive though from someone playing in 1948 to make it to 58, to make it
Yeah,
to 57.
he
Um,
plays till 35, which guys
yeah,
in this era do not do. That's like surprising amounts of longevity.
yeah, because they went and got an actual job. They're like, all right, I'm gonna go support my family now.
Yeah,
In
none of
in
this.
reading about Bob Davies for the top 10 players each year that we're gonna do eventually, when they gave him, I found an article about how they gave him a full-time contract just to play basketball, and that took him away from coaching the Seton Hall basketball team and
Hmm.
playing baseball. He's like, sure, like, all right,
Yeah,
like I'll be a full-time basketball player. It sounds fun. Um,
this is the plumber era, and I say that not as a derogatory term, but like you had to be really good to make enough money to play year round. Bill Sharman in 51, maybe 52, he like dips out on the second half of that season because he's like, yes, I also need to play professional baseball to to make ends meet, and like I gotta go to the start of their season, so like I can't be with you guys for the playoffs. My bad. Like, but
okay,
what's your case for your guy?
Blaylock, it's the steals. It's the steals and the playmaking and the shooting ability. He was eighth in three pointers made. He retired. Puts up 11 straight seasons of two steals per game with two steal titles. In 1994, he was third in assists.
Yeah,
It's kind of the
just
case. He's really. I mean, the playoffs don't really translate. He shoots a brutal 37% from the field, but you're talking about a defensive minded playmaker. Um, that also
yeah.
isn't afraid to shoot. He's not shooting well, but taking 14 shots a night as the defensive specialist, he's definitely making the defense at least pay attention to him.
Yeah. Looking back at him, I'm trying to piece together who's most responsible for the Hawks winning between 94 and 97 because he's got the win shares, but it's a little bit misleading. It's like he's tied with Kevin Willis for the most win shares. Danny Manning gets traded in mid-season, so you don't have the full year. Like, I don't know, do we want a guy
Matumbo.
that's yeah, do we want a guy that's like on par with Kevin Willis right here?
But he's, I mean, Nate, we're talking about the 52. 52. But
Yeah,
yeah. All right. I
yeah,
mean,
but
it
like
depends if you're
assist
saying
leader.
the, yeah. All right. Let's do it. Andy Phillip.
Now, I will also say in Mookie's pro thing for Mookie is he plays in 54 playoff games like during his like stretch with the Hawks. I think he's got a few other series that just don't matter. He averages 40 minutes per game in 54 playoff games. Like that is a ton of minutes. You have got to either be desperate or really good to get 40 minutes a night from someone. All right, beyond Andy
Yeah.
Phillips, I think we have to marry Andy Phillips and Tricky Dick McGuire because they're basically the same on a lot of the accolades, a lot of the statistical
Yeah.
performances. I don't think that we can have much separation between the two of them.
I'm totally fine with that. I was going to say about Blaylock in 1997 versus the 97 Bulls, like one of the best teams ever, 20 points, 6 boards, 6 assists. 45% shooting, but 44 minutes a game. That's basically never leaving. That's like the end of some quarters. They take him out.
Yeah, I mean, when you need him, that's what you have to do. That's he's useful. He does not score the ball well. You say that he wants to shoot. He has a negative career true shooting average, or points added by true shooting, negative 1,063. Like, it's not good. I'm happy that he's willing to score, but maybe we don't want him to try as much.
So we're going Dick McGuire next, though, right?
Yeah, and Tricky Dick McGuire. I was watching some of his highlights before this. I think Tricky Dick McGuire is exactly what people think
Nate, do you have
Bob
to
Cousy
say the
highlights.
full thing every single time?
Tricky Dick McGuire. Do you think I
Yes.
should stop saying Tricky Dick McGuire
I
to
think maybe
save
you get
time?
like half, like half the time. You don't have to say it
Okay.
every time.
Okay. So Tricky Dicky. That's not the half that you wanted to cut. So McGuire. I think people think that Bob Cousy highlights are what McGuire highlights are, or like because you watch Cousy and you're like, oh no, these are actually genuinely inventive, and if players passed like that today, like they'd still be amazing. The McGuire highlights do not translate as well. They are not quite as impressive. They are not quite as tricky. But he's another guy that's talked about in reverence like that. It's Cousy's doing certain ball handling and passing things that only Cousy can do, and McGuire's doing things that only McGuire can do. It's just not quite as impressive.
Just a thought with Kuzi. I was reading an article about what people were saying at the time, or I was reading a newspaper article from the 1950s, and there was I think the old Knicks coach, I forget his name, and he said Bob Cousy is the greatest player I've ever seen. He does things with the basketball that no one else can do. He said, I used to think George Mikan was the best. It's definitely Cousy. That dude's crazy. You know what? It sounded just like exactly how people talk about Kyrie Irving today, and
Mm,
it's so interesting because of like I feel like Kyrie fans hate Kuzi fans and like or like hate Kuzi and if you're
yeah,
really into Kuzi, you're probably not super into Kyrie. But it
yeah.
really is like he can just do whatever he want with the basketball, man. Like that's fucking crazy. Even though it's obviously George Mikan was better and X, Y, and Z, but uh, I love that the discourse hasn't changed. Where it's like the flashy guard is of course he can do anything, man. It's super cool.
Times don't change. Times change. People don't. I don't know. All right. So if we lock in McGuire at 56, I'm cool with Mookie Blaylock at 57. Who do you want at 58? Did you say Mike Bibby earlier?
Can I talk you into Mike Conley?
Conley's higher than Bibby, uh, but
I heard one way.
higher isn't better. I guess lower
Yeah,
numerically. I had
yeah.
Conley at 64, and I have Bibby at 69.
Okay, so I had at 69. My God,
Yeah.
um, it's because you don't think the O2 Western Conference Finals were rigged. It's because you're a dirty Lakers fan. Don't
It's
lie to
because
me. That's you watch Mike Bibby put up 20 and 5, 25 and 5 for 3 straight rounds, and you're like, Derek Harper 17 and 7 for one round is the same.
uh,
Get real.
you messaged me and said, "Who else did this in Western Conference Finals?" And I was in the middle of looking at Derek Harper, and just I've got Derek Harper down at 80. Derek
Okay,
Harper, I do not
okay.
plan.
So
Derek
who's your next
Harper.
guy? Because clearly we're not in line.
My next guy is Freddie Lewis, the ABA legend, three-time ABA All-Star. He's on the All ABA team, which is really more impressive than it sounds. You know, it is a little bit of a mixed bag. You could definitely talk me off of him because he averages like 5 points in the NBA and then jumps to the ABA next season and instantly becomes an all-star, averaging 20 points. I don't think that level of progression is normal in a year, but he is good throughout the entire ABA tenure as the league gets better. And he's part of 3 championship teams. So he's got like a really high level of contribution to winning, as well as like a couple of high peak seasons.
So Nate, I did that statistical top 10 each season thing,
Hmm.
taking all of that or points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, win shares, MVP votes, and playoff win shares, and try to figure out who was the best player for each season. Um,
What was
Freddie
Bibby in
Lewis.
2002?
Let me see. I don't think, but from saying Freddie Lewis is not in the top 15 for any of the ABA seasons. I feel like Mike Bibby in 2002, he was 24th in 2005, 27th in 2004. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
But
still not
for
top
Lewis, I
15.
just I feel like part of him is or a part of his stuff is those Pacers teams are fucking loaded with Mel
They are.
Daniels and Roger Brown, and I just don't know if they won enough to say that their starting point guard is worth all that. But I am a fan of his, and I do think his highlights are a lot of fun. And if you watch any old Pacers stuff, trying to watch anyone else, he stands out more than Nedelicki or Mel Daniels. He's like, whoa, like that dude's taking pull up threes. It really jumps off the screen. Who's your guy after that?
A guy after that, I'm not that in love with. It's Stephon Marbury. I just think at
I
some point,
can't
I know you
not
don't like
yet.
Marbury, but he is the
It's not I don't
two-time
like
All-Star,
him.
two-time All NBA. He's really talented and good. Yeah, he's Hall of NBA dumbassery. Um, but the guy has 20 points per game. And for a good 6-year stretch, they're all bad teams. They're all winning more without him. Well, they get good when he gets gone. Um, but he's got a lot of talent and a lot of skill. And if we're just talking about skill versus fit versus everything else, I think Marbury is not too far down.
Marbury is very talented. I think Mike Conley is just a better player in terms of winning basketball. Someone who's between 5 and 6 assists per game. Also had the most total steals in the league in 2013. Has been 1.5 steals per game his whole career. Even now at age 35, I think he's one of the better players in the league. When we'll do our top 100, I think he should be on that.
Oh, he should. Oh yeah.
Um, even at that age, and his ability just to run a actual pick and roll and play good defense and shoot 40% from three, which he has been doing, 38% from three for a career. It's the reason he's going to be in the league for so long. He was a one time All Star, which is kind of I feel like was
The
kind of a
West is so
sympathy.
packed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, if him and Kyle Lowry swap places, he would be a 5 time All Star.
Well, it's we just went through Jamal Murray, never been an All Star. Well, he plays in the West. Drew Holiday didn't get an All Star appearance his entire time in New Orleans, and yet was able to put up a 28-point playoff series while defending Lillard. Like the West is brutal, and so matrix wise, it's pushing all of these guys down because it's not being able to pick up those assists or those awards. Yeah, I'm fine with locking in Conley at 58.
Awesome.
There's this is going to be kind of a mess because a lot of these guys are like onesie twosie all stars, maybe even a nosy like no all stars. There's also a lot of great longevity guys. Like we've got 3 guys here who are in the top 35 of games played, combined NBA, ABA, playoff regular seasons. Like we've there's so many weird cases. And I think we might even get to talking about Ben Simmons today. That's a weird one. He is number 75 on my list. I don't know where he's at on yours, but I at least tacitly plan on talking about him.
I think he should make this list. I just feel like peak Ben Simmons was one of like the 10 or so, 15 or so best players in the league. And at this
Yeah.
point, none of these guys really are going to be. But man, it just
Yeah.
flames out in the playoffs. And it's hard because I'm like, would I rather have a lot of these guys down here have a good playoff series as role players, or like they came through in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And Simmons really never has. My next guy, I mean, if we can move past Bibby and I'll accept that I'm being a homer. I think Carl Braun should be close to Philip and McGuire. Braun in 1948, 49, and 50, he's top 10 in points per game, goes and serves in the military, comes back, makes all these all-star appearances, and is able to get back up to fifth in assists per game in 1958 and 59. So he's more of a scorer,
Mm-hmm.
serves in the war, changes his mindset, plays basketball a different way, is more of a pass first guy come later, and he makes finals for the Knicks in 1953, and they do lose to the Lakers, but in the final game of that series, it is Carl Braun leading the Knicks in scoring with 19 points in a desperate effort to stop being crushed by George Mikan's Lakers.
He also like it's really hard to figure out who is the best Nick on that 53 team because we can look at a lot of different metrics and like he is third or no, he's first in scoring, but he's like 1.5 points above the fourth place. He's seventh in win shares in the playoffs. He's third in minutes in the playoffs. It's all of this kind of difficult things. I've tried to go back and find some articles, and everyone calls someone else the star.
Yeah.
But
What we have to realize is basketball teams are just different. They're
oh
just
yeah,
built different. It's not like here's our star player. It's they have the rosters are massive and guys come in and out and you can like it's such a new sport really in terms of like at the professional level and um, some guys average 15 points and come playoff time they shoot 21% from the field and they forgot to play basketball and it's super volatile.
yeah. Well, and also when he starts, he's actually more of a small forward. He is a forward when he starts. That's what they talk about him as. And then he comes back and he's a point guard because the league also gets bigger. Size starts becoming more of a factor. The game is popularized is now and like you're starting to get more and more taller players and like the height jumps up a bit. So I I'd like Freddie Lewis over Carl Braun.
You want to do Lewis then Braun?
I do Lewis than Braun. Any thoughts on Archie Clark? Shake and bake?
I'm really surprised you're interested in him. I looked at him and saw a single All-Star appearance smack in the middle of the NBA ABA split era on a shitty team. Is there anything I was missing? Because I did kind of glance at it.
So it's the year after the Baltimore makes the finals, wins the finals. What is it, 72? And he has one really great playoff series. They lose in the first round. Series goes seven. And he's 26.7 points per game, 7.8 assists. In game seven, he is 31 points and 11 assists. He is doing everything possible. That's nearly 60% from the field in that game seven. It is two-time All-Star, but he also has two other seasons with really comparable stats. So, like, very close. You know, you can look at it as a fringe All-Star in two other seasons. You know, we just don't have that many multi-time all-stars who have series like that. It's the same way that you were bringing up Bibby's one series. I think I probably fell in love with that. And that's probably something that we could look at for a lot of these guys, is they have one or two series. If you're not interested, I'd like to talk to you about Norm Van Leer. Are you more interested in Norm Van
I
Leer?
do like Van Leer. I had him at 65. Can I give you my two Sleepy Floyd points?
Yeah.
1987, 19 points and 10 assists per game for a Golden State team that makes the playoffs. You know how hard it was for the Warriors to make the playoffs between Rick Barry and Steph Curry? It's
No, they
almost
had Run TMC.
even those guys weren't that good. And so for a team that had not been to the playoffs or struggled to make the playoffs, he's able to get there. Um, but then in that season in 1987 in the Western Conference semis, they win the first round. They're about to get swept by the Lakers, and Floyd goes off for 51 points, 3 boards, and 10 assists on 18 to 26 shooting. Maybe I'm putting too much stock into one game, but it's one game in the playoffs against the team that would win the championship. I think it's pretty cool.
It's definitely cool. I just don't know how much I like buy into one good game when the rest of your team is compromised or struggling. And he I just can't get there on the one series because that's really what we're looking at. And like almost everyone else has a better career, has a longer career, has
Well,
done
it's the season. It's
more.
the whole season. 87, 18, and 19 points, 10 assists into going head to head with Magic.
Yeah, it's a good single season. It's the
Yeah, it
best.
is.
It's the best true shooting added season of his career. It's the only, he is negative most years. This year he is positive and almost positive 200. He's positive 178. That's huge. Um, I want a little bit more. I did not have him in the top 75.
Damn. All right, that's messed up, Nate. He's making it on here. Let's do Van Leer.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do Van Leer, defensive
There's a
specialist.
there's even a case that we might have had Van Leer too low. Um, because I was going back and I was looking at the MVP votings. He actually is better in the MVP voting than his two teammates Bob Love and Chet Walker. Like those years when the Bulls are making the playoffs in the 70s, there is I mean the layman, the voter, or which I believe was the players at that time, were voting for Norman Van Leer over the other two. Now he is also a negative scorer, um, but
But he's an 8-time All Defensive player
eight-time
and
All Defensive.
an assist champ in 1971, his second season for the Royals. 16 points, 10 assists, and to be that good on defense is pretty impressive. 8 assists, eight all defensive teams. I forget how many people have done that, but the list is very short.
Yes, very small. All right, I had Mike Conley right after him, which we've already locked in Conley.
So we did
Why do
Conley, Lewis, right? Conley, Lewis, and then Van Leer,
Braun then Van Leer.
Braun, then Van Leer. Duh.
Yeah. All right. So 62. How do you feel about Jason Terry? Yeah, shrug, shoulder shrug. All right, Jason Terry has
No,
played.
I do like it. Sorry, no, I do like it. I like Jason Terry. I think I had him just a little bit lower for someone that was never able to put together an all-star case, but he gets buckets in the playoffs. That dude fuck shit up in the finals, and he'll hit those big shots. And at this point in this list, that's enough. I'm not asking for first team All NBAs.
It's a combination of the ability to drop points in the playoffs. He closes out Miami in 2011 with a 27-point night. He does struggle a bit when they play in '06. That closeout game, he is 2 from 11 from 3. As Dallas gets eliminated. I do wish he was a little bit better, but he played 1,400 plus games. He has played the 14th most games combined NBA, ABA, BAA, regular season, and playoffs in league history. Like that level of longevity is insane. The other guys that are around there are like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Karl Malone, John Stockton. Not necessarily a guy I want to be on the list with, but a couple of those guys. But it's just a fantastic longevity, and a lot of guys way higher. Well, I think Kevin Wills is also close to that, but I'm just saying, we might as well make the case for the guy that plays forever. Who do you have for 63?
Do you remember Jason Terry's Bucks days?
Not really. I know they
He was there. I
existed.
think it's his final season.
Oh, oh man, I remember him distracting J.R. Smith
Hmm.
uh during during a play. Just calls out to him, goes daps him up. J.R. Smith man just backdoors him. J.R.'s like, "What? We were playing?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's how this works."
That's funny. You like players that are good in the playoffs, right?
Is this your Mike Bibby
This is my Mike Bibby.
circling around to Bibby?
Mike Bibby in the 2002 Western Conference Finals versus the Lakers, 19 points, 20 points, 24 points, 21, 23, 23, 29. That final game 7, Shaq and Kobe both get 30 plus. On our side, on the Kings side, it's Mike Bibby, like trying desperately to ask Chris Webber to hit his free throws and to score his own points. Um,
I would like to point out this is another guy with
there's some
1,000
shit.
games played.
I hear like
Yeah, it's
lawnmowers.
it's a motorcycle. I
Okay,
would
just
like
want to
to
make
point
sure.
out
Good.
I'd like to point out that this is another guy with over 1,000 games played. A lot of these guys have 1,000 games played.
Yeah. And in the series before that against Dallas, 11 points, then 22, 29, 24, 23.
Yeah,
He'd only averaged 13 points per game in the regular season
and
prior. And these are big playoff games. He hits big shots. I have a coaster somewhere of like the diagram, the X's and O's of Mike Bibby's game-winning shot against the Lakers at some point. Didn't really amount to much because we lost the series, but we're talking about clutch stuff.
It's a clutch performance. It's a big performance for him. I've never felt like he was the straw that stirs the drink. I mean,
36 points per game, or sorry, go ahead.
when did he get 36 points per game?
36 points in total.
Yeah,
Game
a game.
5. Yeah, okay, against 2004, against Dallas, against Dirk and Nash. Nash is there, correct? 14
Yes.
points in 24, 22, 22, 36. That's 36 points in a 1-point win against the Dallas Mavericks, outscoring Dirk Nowitzki. He's going head to head with Kobe, with Shaq, with Dirk. And you think about Weber, and you think about Peja, but it's kind of like the Jamal Murray thing with Jokic, where Jokic stirs the drink, but at the end, Bibby's taking the shots in the big games.
It's just all right. So 2003, Western Conference semis. He's at 12 points, 4 assists. That's right after. That's the next year. Your own 2002 series,
Well, the fact
14
that I could
points.
point out
Yeah,
3 awesome series for at this point in this list, because he's good against Dallas before the Lakers series. That's 3 series with 4 straight 20-point games, 6 straight 20-point games, 4 straight 20-point games. You can't find me a player on this list that will do that. 3 awesome playoff series,
but
just 3 of them.
Could I find you a guy that does something more over the course of the season? Terrell Brandon actually led the Cavs to the playoffs twice as the best player. He's a two-time All-Star for a reason. Like Calvin Murphy, one-time All-Star, but averages 20 points per game for 8 seasons, as
I
well
do
as
like
being a top defensive player.
I
I
do
love
like
Calvin
Calvin
Murphy.
Murphy. I mean, I don't. I'll be willing to exchange some Mike Bibby currency for Calvin Murphy.
I got to figure out where to place Calvin Murphy because as much as we love looking back at him, he also has kind of the Stephen Marbury case of doesn't win a ton, doesn't win as much as you'd like it to match with the numbers and the description around the game. All right, who else do we have to talk about? There's Steve Francis, Larry Costello, Rod Strickland. Any of those names jumping out to you?
At this point, I had Marbury next. Do you want to just do that?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. I was gonna say Calvin Murphy does make the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Yeah, but
That's
he's
not
really
Marbury.
it's not. But
Yeah.
as soon as Rudy Tomjanovich gets hurt, they drop to being like a 28 win team, and I'm just like, you lose your one other good player, and you go from 50 wins or 48 wins to 28. Like it's why I couldn't put Derek Harper in there because Derek Harper leads the Mavs in win shares 5 times, including once where he plays 62 games and they win 11 out of 70, or they go 11 and 71. I was like, if you're the best player and you can't get 12 wins,
That's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's I mean at this point, I think I do think if these guys are your best player, you're one of the worst teams in the league.
yeah,
That's why they're out of the top 50. But Murphy, 1971, 1975, first round, first New York, 20 points, 5 assists. Second round versus Boston, 27.6 assists. 77 conference finals versus Philly, 20 points, 8 assists.
I like it. All right, let's do it. Let's put him in
All right.
65 then. All right, who do you got next?
Sleepy Floyd. Still Sleepy Floyd.
Still,
After that, we get
give me someone other than Sleepy Floyd.
Goran Dragic.
Okay, Dragic didn't make it. He came in 76 for me. But I see the case. I really see the case for everyone here because there's no separation between a lot of these guys, and yet we're going to have probably 100 players separating them when we start mixing small forwards and centers and power forwards and everything else.
It's tricky. It's tricky. With
Like Vicky McGuire.
with Dragic, 2014, 76 games, leads the Suns in minutes, leads the Suns in scoring, leads the Suns in assists. They win 48 games. He tricked the Suns to build around him. I mean, he was that good. They went all in, and that was not a good idea. But also the 2020 playoff run. I think if he's healthy and it is him and health, if I think if Dragic and Bam are healthy, the Lakers lose that series. Because
I think
looking
there's a
at
real chance of that. Yeah.
yeah, I think the Heat were a better team. Looking at Dragic, first round, 23 points, 5 assists, 4 boards. Second round, 20 points, 4 boards, 5 assists. 20 this third round conference finals, 20 points, 5 assists, 4 boards. And then he gets hurt and barely can average 6 points a game. But it's 25 and 5. Round 1, 2, and 3. I mean, they're really going to him as their guy.
Yeah. But it is a little bit of like he's the offense and the other guys are the defense. And you still have to keep a guy anchored on
That's
Jimmy.
valuable. That's
Um,
valuable.
yeah.
It's not one series that he comes through. That's 3 straight playoff rounds where he was 20 points, 34, 35, 34 minutes a game.
Yeah, but they've taken the ball handling responsibility off of him. It's a lot more of Jimmy Butler doing it. Could I talk to you about Rod Strickland?
I had Strickland at 70, so not that far off.
Rod Strickland, he's a very consistent ball handler and scorer. Where we can look at from 94 to 98, he is averaging what was it 18 points, 9.5 assists per game. And he's one of the better players on his team. They're getting bounced in the first round, but when we get to the playoffs, that's in that stretch, we're looking at 4 years, 94 to 97, where he's averaging 22 points and 9.5 assists. He's both a ball handler and a passer. And you know, there's I appreciate more what he does over the course of the regular seasons than what Dragic does in this one playoff run because I feel like it's a larger sample size. It's less fluky. It's less of a chance of like, oh yeah, because we had this matchup, we were able to get this result. I know playoffs are in essence a harder task in theory, but I don't always see them like that. And when it's one playoff series here, one playoff series there, that's where I kind of struggle with it. And I'd rather have the guy that does this for 4 or 5 years at this level.
Sure. Strickland is second team All NBA in 1988, despite
Mhm.
not being an All Star. He's 18 points and he's a league leading 10 and a half assists for a Bullets team that wins 42 games. Sorry, a Wizards team. I believe that's their first Wizards season. Um, and the year before that, 17 points, 9 assists, and the Bullets. Now the Bullets make the playoffs. The
Mhm.
Bullets never make the playoffs, and Rod Strickland was able to help them make the playoffs. That is an accomplishment on its own. So I'll take
So,
it.
all right, Rod. All right. Um, let's see here. Does the name? I feel like you're not going to be a fan of the names Mark Jackson or Andre Miller. Are those two guys that didn't make your list?
I had Andre Miller 72nd. I had Mark Jackson 80th.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
I
I
think
flipped
Andre Miller
those.
should make this list. Andre Miller is a good player. Played for a bunch of teams. Um, got a bunch of assists for a lot of in a lot of situations.
Another guy with just insane longevity.
Yeah, he was on the 2016 Spurs.
Yeah. He never makes All NBA, but he receives votes a number of years. He never makes All Defense, but receives votes in 7 seasons, which I didn't remember him being as great of a defender. There's a lot of talk about how good of a defender he is. So he starts 939 games, like plays 1,300, but still, like to be starting that much. Also, the highest number of win shares of anyone we've discussed today, or no, I think he's like second or third, but he's got 100 win shares, which is supposedly the mark to make Hall of Fame, give or take a little bit. There's some other calculations, but if you have 100, you usually make the Hall. Um, you know, he probably his best playoff series is in '09 in the first round where they lose. I want to say it's in 5, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. It's a solid season. Do
Man,
you want him?
we're scraping at the bottom. I do like some Andre Miller.
It feels too high for him. Like I
Yeah.
think he makes this list, but it's just like
Can we do? Sorry, go ahead.
it's just. Do you want the guy with the longevity of Andre Miller? Do you want the guy that has the like 2 good playoff series, like a Sleepy Floyd? It sounds
Yeah,
like you're more to the Sleepy Floyd. Um, can I talk to you about Terrell Brandon? Did you have?
sure. I really would like to offer a Michael Ray Richardson.
I had him one spot above Sleepy Floyd.
All right, so we're making progress. Richardson, the Knicks in 1980 win 39 games, which isn't that bad. But Richardson, 37 minutes a game, 15 points, a league leading 10 assists and 3.2 steals. The next season, Knicks up to 50 wins, coached by legendary 50s Nick or 50s player, a Royal actually, Red Holzman. Um,
I think he gets to
16
the
and a
Knicks at
half.
one point. I might be wrong.
It sounds like everyone plays for the Knicks eventually. 16 and a half points, 8 assists, another steal, I fucked this up. I don't think so. Did he? No, but 2.9 assists. So 1981, 51 wins, 16 and a half points, 8 assists, 2.9 steals. The next season, another all-star nod. So he's a consistent all-star at this point. Like the league is recognizing him for this. 18.7 assists, 2.6
Mhm.
steals. The next season he does get traded, but it's another steal title. Even 1985, when he stops doing a bunch of drugs, age 29 for the Nets, 20 points, 8 assists, and a steal title. So 3 steal titles and an assist title. He's the first player ever to have the lifetime ban from David Stern for substance abuse. Um,
Which
but
he
man, was he
appealed.
really good?
Did you know that he got it appealed and was allowed back in '88?
He didn't play.
Didn't play. Didn't come back. Said I'm done with you. You guys tried to
Hmm,
kick me out, but did get approved that he could return in '88.
hmm. Very interesting. Um,
So
I
my my
remember. Go ahead.
my case against Sleepy Floyd is that '81 season. Do you know what he shoots in the playoffs?
Who are we talking about? Sleepy Floyd or
Oh, sorry, Michael Ray Richardson.
what's the case?
In that '81 season, he's 40 minutes a night in the playoffs. He is shooting 24.2%. He is 4 for 16 and a half field goals a night.
It's two
4
games
for
though.
16
It's
and a
it's
half.
it's 2 games. That's my counter. Is it's he got cold for 2 games.
He has 5.5 assists and 4 turnovers a night.
Leads
The
the Knicks in
next
rebounds though. He finds a way to contribute.
finds a way to contribute. Great, great. The next year, he's at 38.1%. Also 2 games. But I mean, his 2 good years you want to look at it in the playoffs. It's 40%. Like
What do we talk about though, Nate?
the
What do we talk
scoring,
about for Mookie for Blaylock? We talk about for Blaylock. He's what? How many minutes is he playing?
he's
Is
playing
it
a lot of
40?
minutes.
He's playing 40 minutes a game because he contributes in a bunch of ways. He's an awesome defensive guard.
We're also
That
talking Mookie Blaylock is 8-time all defense, not 2-time all defense.
I don't think it's that many. I think it's 6.
Mookie?
Well,
Is it 6?
Richardson's never healthy. Well, not healthy, but he's never.
You're not making the case better here.
I mean, when he's playing, he's first team all defense. He doesn't play very much. So Blaylock is at 57. This would be 67. Richardson comes in and is a rookie, doesn't really start, but then 3 straight seasons of being an all-star, 37, 40, 37 minutes a game for Knicks teams
He
that are
also has that
making the
85
playoffs.
year. All
Yeah,
right, all right.
85. Thank you.
Sake of time, we'll make this happen.
All right.
We'll get him in there. We're not talking about Sleepy Floyd again. we can, but it's my compromise.
All right. So we had Murphy at 65, Rod Strickland 66, Ray Richardson at 67. Up next is Terrell Brandon.
Yeah, locking him in. 68. And I'm just gonna read you the guys that I've got. And Tell me when I hit a name that sounds interesting to you. Archie Clark, Steve Francis, Larry Costello, Mark Jackson, Nick Van Exel, Andre Miller, Ben Simmons.
Let's do Andre Miller.
You ready for him?
Yeah.
It's just the consistency case. It's you know what you're gonna get, and you're gonna get it for like 20 years. All right.
Okay, so we have 5 spots left: 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, and 75,
That's 6.
which is 6 spots because math, because numbers don't make any fucking sense. Um, we have 6 spots left. I had Sleepy Floyd, Goran Dragic, Guy Rogers, Steve Francis, Derek Harper, Ben Simmons. Nick Van Exel at 76. I think Exel should be ahead of Harper upon further look. How can we combine these two lists?
Well, I think the way we combine them is combine the guys that we have on both. Uh, the highest guy I've got that was on both lists was Steve Francis. And
Okay, we can do
Francis, he makes
Francis.
the playoffs one time, but very similar to your Ray Richardson in case. He's got the 3 straight All-Star appearances. There is a time where he is consistently considered one of the better players in the league. Those 3 years, it's basically 20 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds from 2002 to
It's Stevie
2004.
franchise, man. He's the
Yeah.
franchise.
And then he gets traded for Tracy McGrady,
Yeah.
which, like, I said that as it sounded kind of like a joke, but like, you needed to give up something of value. They gave up Stevie franchise, Katino Mobley for Tracy McGrady, Tyronn Lue, Juwan Howard. Like, that's a good haul. And then when Orlando trades him, they trade him for Trevor Ariza and Penny Hardaway. And it's 2006 Penny Hardaway, so not the best, but like the guy had value. It's kind of like Stephon Marbury. You can kind of wrinkle your nose at it, but he's good.
Can we please sneak in Sleepy Floyd now at 71? I've been trying.
Fine.
He was like 54 for me or something. All
Oh my
right.
god. All
So that
right.
leaves us
In the spirit of
72,
compromise,
which is Nick Van Exel.
if we're gonna sneak in Sneaky Floyd, yeah, can I sneak in Archie Clark?
You got to tell me about him because I just, yeah, no, we
Um,
can do it.
yeah,
What's like
it's
what's the biggest thing? You're like Archie Clark did that.
so it's a 2-time All-Star. It's it's averaging 20 points per game for 5 seasons, and slightly below that if you want to include the sixth where he gets 18 points. He's a positive scoring guy, which a lot of these small guards are not. And then there's kind of a 3 straight playoff stretch, 71, 72, 73, where it's 23 points, 27 points, 21 points. Just a brilliant scoring guard, or to kind of gets in with teams either after they're good or before they're good. He is on the 68 finals team with the Lakers. Not a well, he's playing 36 minutes a night, but not contributing at the highest level. There's a reason they lose. If he's better, they probably win.
It's
But
an interesting career, just
it's
where he's playing because it's like the pre-Chamberlain Lakers. Well, he's part of that trade, isn't he?
I don't think so. Let me double check.
Yeah, no, he is.
Is he? All
Chambers and
right.
Imhoff for Weld, so he kind of gets the short end of that stick, and then he's playing for the early '70s Bullets team, and the Bullets are always like that's a wild ride to be a part of. On to 70s Seattle and Detroit. I mean, he runs the gauntlet of like weird
Teams that make the
franchises being,
finals that
yeah,
but not while he's there.
not while he's there. Let's do that. No, I think it's a good case. Clark at 72.
He is also 172 in the Matrix, which not that that matters a ton, but like we've
He's all NBA.
we've got guys that are like 300 something in
Yeah,
the Matrix that are going out right now. So
he's a
uh,
second team All NBA player. That's worth something.
yeah. All right. So 3 spots left. I think Nick Van Exel is the one of the other names that we both agreed upon.
So Nick Van Exel, Ben Simmons, Goran Dragic.
Let's do Nick and Ben.
Okay. All right.
Um, and I could be tempted, whatever order. Which do you have them in?
I want to do Exel first. Nick Van Exel's a lot of fun. Van Exel has a lot of stories of past players being like, man, Nick Van Exel like messed me up when I was a rookie and I was this and like he was so fast, man. I had no idea. And I just think that's a really cool aspect for a player is to have that like that Jamal Crawford that aspect of like, dude, I tried to guard him and I don't even think he saw me.
Yeah.
He has really fun highlights and he was good and helped the Lakers be a he was the shooting guard before, well, I guess the point guard, but the electric guard before Kobe for the Lakers.
Well, it was him and Eddie Jones, and um, Shaq shipped his ass out so fast after or 98. I forget who they're playing, but they're down 3-0 and about to get swept as Shaq did a lot. Um, and they all put their hands in, and it's supposed to be 1-2-3 Lakers, and he goes 1-2-3 Cancun. And Shaq just like goes to management immediately after the game, is like, get him off the team. I do not want to play with Nick.
Well, hey, he's gonna fit in perfectly with our next guy, Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons has been living in Cancun for 2 seasons now.
He
Do you remember? Do you
wishes.
remember? Do you remember what it was like to watch Ben Simmons play basketball?
Yes, but real quick before we move off, I do just want to say, since we've kind of highlighted best playoff series for some other guys, uh, 2003 against your San Antonio Spurs, Nick Van Exel averaging 25 points, 4.5 assists, 4 boards. But he drops 40 points in game 3 in Sacramento. And like that's kind of the series deciding game. Tilts him, gives them the 2-1 edge, takes back home court because Sac had stolen it. And like that's the big game of that series. And he's got 47 and 7.
That's Mavs versus Kings.
Mavs versus Kings.
Gotcha. I think you said Spurs.
Oh, they're the same franchise.
Essentially.
In my
Okay.
upbringing of hatred, they were the same franchise.
Nate, I remember watching the 2019. How 2022, 2021. I don't when did not 2019 because that was the Raptors year. Open 2021 when the Sixers played the Hawks and watching those games going nuts because I was rooting for the Hawks obviously because it's funny when the
Mhm.
Sixers lose. Um,
We all enjoy the Sixers' misery.
and they couldn't beat them. The Hawks just had this energy and this 3-point shooting ability and all these angles. And I remember watching Ben Simmons get that basketball, and if he passed it up, it's one of those things you're not really sure if what you just watched is important, but then you look to the person next to you and they're like mouth agape, like I can't believe he just did that. And I'm like, damn, like I just that was like a really important play that I watched live in terms of NBA stuff is Ben Simmons passing up the dunk. We'll always remember that. The funny thing is he shot 60% from the field in that series. Like he is the
When
I
you
just
shoot
made a
shots you
video
know you're
about
gonna make, that you do that.
yeah. I just made a video about how Reggie Miller is an overrated scorer because he doesn't have his volume isn't very high at all.
Hmm.
That's looking at Ben Simmons, you're like, hey, he's super efficient. This is great. He's like Rudy Gobert is actually the best scorer in the league because he shoots 65% from the field. We have one spot left.
I
I,
so I know you
I
want Goran Dragic.
yeah, I really think Dragic should be on this list. I
Um,
can't see it for Harper or Melzioni or
so
Costello or
Costello is a 6-time All-Star. He is also an all NBA player. I don't necessarily love it. My one argument, the one other guy that I would put over Dragic left is Mark Jackson. Is that Reggie Miller teammate? He does kind of bounce around the league. He also gets worse after his first couple of years, or more kind of reins it in. They kind of realize that he's not going to be a star, but he's a really consistent playoff performer. He is going to get you know 14 points, 6 to 8 assists. Like it's a case of longevity at that level. Well, in my mind, he's also another guy that's played close to 1,300 games. Where was he at all time? Him in games played. I want to say he's top 35. Yeah, he's 24th in all time games played. You don't
Yeah,
like it?
I kind of do like it just in terms of that longevity. Seeing someone play all 82 games at age 37 doesn't start any of them, but they clearly have a system worked out. I feel like if you're playing for that long, people respect you and they respect your
Hmm.
game and they're like, this guy he needs to be out there. Like you got to play him, especially given that he's playing 30 minutes a game for his career, um, which is a pretty good amount. Getting an assist title in 1987, but from his rookie season up until age 36, he's between 7 and 10 assists, basically 7 and 11 and a half assists.
Yeah,
All right,
it's
whatever. Let's do it.
Dragic. He's closing in on the 1,000 game mark, but he's got a slow ramp up those first 3 years, and really these last couple of years, last two, and then whatever this one are, they're not that good. Jackson's
No, he
Jackson's
hasn't.
consistent.
Dragic hasn't played like competent basketball in a while. Basically,
Yeah.
since the 2020 season. I mean, 2021, he ends up getting hurt, but yeah, 2022. I mean, when he was in Toronto and he was like, "I demanded trade." He demanded a trade out of Toronto, or got wanted the release. And
Hmm.
he's going to Dallas, and he signed with Brooklyn, and then he was a free agent. It's like he's going to Dallas, and he signed with Chicago, and he ended up in Milwaukee. And
And now
um,
it's like Dallas wasn't really even that interested in it anymore.
yeah,
All right, so that gives us a top 75, 51 through 75 of John Morant, Jamal Murray, Norm Nixon, Drew Holiday, Andy Phillips, Tricky Dick McGuire, Mookie Blaylock, Mike Conley, Freddie Lewis, not the early NBA one, but the ABA one, Carl Braun, Norm Van Leer, Jason Terry, Stephen Marbury, Mike Bibby, Calvin Murphy, Rod Strickland, Michael Ray Richardson, Terrell Brandon, Andre Miller, Stephen Francis, Sleepy Floyd, Archie Clark, Nick Van Exel, Ben Simmons, Mark Jackson. Where can the people find you?
possible chairs on TikTok.
Find me at Hoops Temple Pod on TikTok or hoopstemple at gmail.com. If you've got critiques, thoughts, a case for someone else, hit us up in the email.